In recent years, we have seen how federal courts play a critical role in politically charged issues, from reproductive health to student loan forgiveness and immigration. With only 2 months left of his administration, time is running out for President Biden to put his final stamp on the judiciary. There are currently 44 judicial vacancies, and 14 of the president's nominees are awaiting Senate approval. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has said Democrats will confirm as many judges as they can. But there are reports incoming Majority Leader John Thune may try to slow the process. President-elect Donald Trump also posted on his Truth Social platform in part, Republican senators need to show up and hold the line. No more judges confirmed before Inauguration Day. The White House responded Tuesday, saying in part, during the equivalent time under the Trump administration, Senator John Thune forcefully argued that continuing to confirm President Trump's judicial nominees should be a, quote, top priority. Jess Bravin joins us now. He's a Supreme Court correspondent for the Wall Street Journal. Jess, thanks for being here. Democrats control the Senate until early January. How many of these 44 vacancies can they realistically fill? And how much power do Republicans have to stop any in that time?
Well, it all depends, to answer your last question first, Lindsay, it depends on who shows up on the Senate floor. I mean, this is really ends up being a counting noses game. If the Democrats all stick together and show up, especially with Vice President Harris there to break ties, if there were one, they can confirm most of these nominees. Republicans likewise have to stick together if they want to have a chance of stopping them. And there's been some criticism on the Republican side that some senators, including J.D. Vance, haven't always been there to vote no on the Democratic nominees.
Is there enough time, given the holidays, given the other issues before Senate lawmakers, that they could actually confirm 44 plus the 17 before Inauguration Day?
Well, the Republicans have been complaining that the Democrats are focusing on confirming judges instead of doing other things like passing the defense bill and so on. But yeah, I think that there are no illusions now about the judicial branch as an important pillar of power in Washington. The sense that this was somehow apart from politics has totally vanished from the Capitol. And senators treat federal judgeships as a political prize that they can award while they have the power to do it. Certainly, Republicans have not been shy about doing that, as the White House said during an equivalent period 4 years ago. And the Democrats, who were maybe a little slower on the uptake about this issue, now are determined to get as many people in as possible. And of course, once the Republicans take control of all of Congress and the White House next year, the courts are going to be really one of very few avenues where the Democrats have a chance of stopping policies that they think are legally questionable.
Jess, last month before the election, you co-wrote an article with the headline, Trump loyalists push for a combative slate of new judges. What do we know about the types of judges he's looking at, and what is the long-term effect of judges and cabinet picks put in place by Trump, who might be even further right than we've seen in the past?
Well, during the first Trump administration, there was a real variety of the kind of people that the then and future president put on the bench. Some were real firebrands who have done quite extraordinary things, like revoking the FDA approval of mifepristone, the abortion medication. Others, however, had very solid credentials, very and much more, I would say, kind of mainstream type of background, and have produced fairly rigorous opinions and are quite respected down the line. So there was a variety of Trump appointees who passed the vetting by conservative legal organizations and got on the bench. This time around, though, with Trump's ambitions being much sharper than perhaps they were in the first term, some of his loyalists are saying, let's go for the firebrands, the people who have demonstrated not simply excellence in their legal preparation or academic background, but actually to prioritize their commitment to the agenda of the Trump administration. That was discussed actually at the Federalist Society convention last week, where a lot of the conservative legal movement's leaders gathered here in Washington, D.C. So there is likely to be a push for people on the bench who are not simply conservatives who are respected and can be expected to follow the legal methods that people like Justice Antonin Scalia championed, but also are likely to be sympathetic to very aggressive efforts by the Trump administration to push its legal agenda forward. The problem that he may face, though, is that the Democrats are determined to leave as few vacancies as possible on the federal bench. So that bench might not change that much. He might not have the opportunity to appoint as many judges as he would like. And we know that the members of the Supreme Court, none of them, as far as we know, have any plans of going anywhere. So Trump may have less of an opportunity to shape the bench in his second term, even if his ambitions are greater than he did the first time around.
All right, Jess Bravin, we'll have to see what happens between now and January. Thank you so much.